The only way to advance and improve as an individual is to leave the past behind and start over. However, it seems that the United States of America and its foolish politicians have taken these words too literally. Hi and welcome to TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I'm your host Atul Mishra. Let's begin. The United States of America was formed through a really rich historic process that spanned centuries. The story of the country's formation is one of struggles, triumphs, and compromises that have shaped the nation we know today. In the 17th century, European colonizers began to settle on what is now known as the eastern coast of the country. Over the next century, the colonies grew in size and number as more and more Europeans arrived in search of land and opportunity. As the colonialists resented the oppressive rule of the British monarchy, relations between the colonies and the British government became increasingly tense. When a group of colonialists under the leadership of people like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson decided to rebel against British rule in the late 18th century, this tension finally reached a boiling point. During the American Revolution, which took place in the colonies from 1775 to 1783, the colonialists banded together to fight for their freedom from British rule. With the signing of the Treaty of Paris in 1783, the British finally acknowledged the United States' independence after a protracted and bloody war. With independence won, the US got its first president, the revolutionary George Washington. He and his new federal government faced a number of challenges in its early years, including the need to establish a strong economy and to expand westward. The United States was able to oversee these obstacles and establish itself as a major world power through fearless leadership, groundbreaking policies, and sheer fighting spirit. The country was cherished in the 20th century for its form of capitalism. The United States' rise to one of the most powerful and influential countries in the world is attributed solely to capitalism. The country's formation was a protracted and challenging process, but it ultimately succeeded, allowing it to develop into the great country it is today. However, American politics in the 21st century has taken a terrible, abrupt, and unwanted turn. Despite the ideological and policy differences, both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party never abandoned the soul of capitalism and a free business environment. But now the situation has fallen to that extent, ladies and gentlemen, the call for divisions within GOP and Democrat-ruled states have also emerged. Republican representative and a bona fide Trump hater, Marjorie Taylor Greene, made a dangerous comment by recommending a national divorce that would split the nation into red and blue states. When she tweeted, "We must divide the country into red and blue states and reduce the size of the federal government," she caused commotion. This tweet took the whole US by storm, with some Republicans bashing her for such remarks and, surprisingly, several liberals promoting the cause. But what exactly does Taylor mean in her tweet? Essentially, her tweet focused on cutting GOP-ruled states from Democrat-ruled states, both economically and legally. This means GOP states would have a Schengen-like travel allowance, while Democrats would have their own Schengen-like travel rules. The states could have their own military and administrative control independent of the White House. Pretty stupid, but also very dangerous. After her initial comments sparked controversy, Taylor clarified in subsequent tweets that she did not advocate for a new civil war or the formation of two separate nations. Instead, she called for a significant devolution of federal power, allowing states to govern domestic policies while maintaining a shared national defense. Despite these clarifications, the impact of her original comments cannot be undone, and they continue to fuel ongoing political debates that have become a regular topic in newsrooms throughout the United States. In recent years, a vocal sect of political pundits has been predicting that another civil war is on the horizon for the USA because of the country's deep political divide. The US of 2023 is more divided than ever, with social trends intensifying the division in the last 15 years. No president of the US can solve the crisis at the moment. The extent of political polarization among Americans is remarkably high, with 90% acknowledging strong or very strong conflicts between backers of different political parties. In contrast, in countries surveyed by Pew, the average level of perceived intense political conflict was only 50%, with all but one reporting much lower levels than the United States. The question here arises how the US landed up in such a big mess. While the liberal pundits in the US might pass the buck on Trump for the crisis, the rot actually began during the times of Obama. According to a CNN ORC poll, the majority of Americans believe that President Barack Obama made things worse between blacks and whites in the country. During the Obama administration, significant strides were made in advancing the rights of marginalized groups, particularly in the areas of gender identity and race. The administration issued guidelines and policies that recognized transgender individuals' right to access public facilities based on their gender identity and supported efforts to combat discrimination against LGBTQ+ individuals. Additionally, Obama promoted racialism in areas such as criminal justice and education and implemented initiatives to promote diversity and inclusion in federal agencies. These actions somehow stoked racial tensions. And then, as an answer to Obama's partisan politics, Trump came to power. Trump empowered the GOP voters that he is their messiah, and it left Democrats rattled, pushing for more black and white and gender divide. In 2020, Joe Biden came to power, and so the polarity within the American voters just widened. The squad within the Democrats also played a very important role in this divide, with leaders like AOC, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib taking the charge of pushing nonsensical and stupid but very dangerous agendas. Now, America is a nation where people are calling for gender-neutral bathrooms and mayors like Lori Lightfoot avoiding questions of white journalists. This is the divide where America is standing today. In a sane-minded nation, such stupid politicians would have been barred from running even in school monitor elections. Here, these idiots have the power to bring down the president and eventually the whole of USA. The shift of world from conservatism to liberalism and liberalism to conservatism is oscillatory. Societies alternately experience liberal and conservative eras. Factors like economic cycles, social unrest, wars, and other significant events cause the eras to swing from liberalism to conservatism and vice versa. The United States, a great nation that has existed for over 250 years, has reached the point where a significant shift is about to occur. The country is now more polarized than ever. Thus, predictions of a civil war, a national divorce per se, and impending unrest are becoming widespread. The Balkanization of the United States could also become a fact, which would be history in the making.